Hey guys, I hope everyone is having a fantastic spring break. Just wanted to connect with you guys, and in case you missed us or in case you forgot from when we got together on February 28th, give you just a recap of what we talked about. So we looked at the parable of the persistent widow, where we have this woman who needs justice and she goes to a judge who initially is indifferent, but she pesters him. She asks him over and over and over again until he finally says, "You've worn me out," and he gives her what she's asking for. Jesus says very clearly, first of all, that the purpose of the parable is for us to pray and to not give up. And he says at the end, surely if a judge who doesn't care about us will relent if we ask over and over, then a loving God would want to do the same for us. And so we looked at 5 ways that we said that we have the ability to influence God, for our prayers to have an impact, for us to essentially change his mind. And so the first one of those is kind of what we called bugging God. And we said it could either take the form of asking again and again, day after day, similar to what we saw from the widow in the parable, or what we sort of referred to as wrestling, which was what we saw from Jacob, where we just commit to spending a long period of time with God, saying, I'm going to pray all night for this, or I'm going to pray all day for this, I'm going to pray several hours for this. But the idea that we simply show God that we're not going away, that we're going to ask, are ways that we sort of bug God. The second way that we looked at was arguing, essentially presenting to God a compelling reason for why he should give us what we're asking for. And we said that one of the best ways to argue is to use God's own words, to pull things out of that the Bible say, promises that God makes, things that God tells us about himself, and to say, well, God, if you are this way, for instance, God, if your word says that you're not willing that any would perish, but that all would have eternal life, then God, you should cause this person to come to faith, because your word says that's the type of God you are. And so the second way is arguing. Third way is fasting, to essentially demonstrate through sacrifice, most commonly with food, but fasting can take many forms, but to demonstrate to God how serious that we are and how much our faith is in him and not in the things that we would normally turn to in life. The fourth way that we looked at was praying when you would normally work. And so you have some problem, perhaps a test, you're afraid you're going to fail, a need for money, and taking that to God and saying, God, I'm going to pray about this. Yes, human wisdom would say that I need to go out and work more hours, I need to study more, but I'm going to take some of that time, and instead I'm going to pray. I'm demonstrating, God, that my faith is ultimately in you and not in my own ability to solve the problem. The next way that we looked at was asking other people to pray. That essentially, number one, the value is that we're humbling ourselves and admitting that we have a problem, being willing to share with other people that we have a need that in some way we can't take of ourselves, and so sharing our problems. And then ultimately what we're doing is sort of what the widow did, but we're multiplying ourselves, and so God is hearing not just from us over and over again, but from many people as well. So these are the ways that we looked at, that we have the opportunity to influence God and to change God's mind. And then the challenge was to think of something in our life that we want from God, something that we feel we need God to do, that God hasn't said yes to yet. And the challenge was to commit to using one of those strategies. So I hope that you guys take me on that challenge, and I'm excited to hear about the ways in which you see God work in your prayer life.